Welcome to the Warrior Word, the first and final word on Warrenton High School athletics. The Warrior Word is brought to you by Warrenton Kia and heard exclusively on 106.3 The Beach.
Welcome to the Warrior Word on 106.3 The Beach, your new home for the Warrior Word this school season. It's brought to you each week by Warrenton Kia and also these supporting sponsors, South Jetty Dining Room and Bar in Hammond and Seaside Factory Outlets. Well, we have now put the fall sports season behind us over at Warrenton High School, and talking to Robert Hopeful, the Warrenton High School athletic director, about all things Warrior sports, and he is ready to move on now to the winter sports season, and that's all about basketball and wrestling and swimming this year. Robert himself is the head coach of the girls basketball team, and I'm sure he's excited to talk about their prospects this year. And I think that's where we're going to start here is with Warriors basketball.
Yeah, real quick, I just want to congratulate a couple teams in our league for some performances in other sports. Catlin Gable is in the state championship for both boys and girls soccer. They're actually playing Portland Adventist, which is another team in our league, on the boys' side for the state title, and Oregon Episcopal, which is another team in our league on the girls' side for a state title. So in both boys and girls soccer, a team from our league will be the state champion. Catlin Gable's girls won the state championship in cross country. So a pretty good last weekend for the sports teams in our league. Rainier did win their first round state playoff football game, advancing to the second round, being Pleasant Hill. So they'll be continuing into the state playoffs as well. Unfortunately, Classic and I suffered a loss to a very tough Dayton team. But we do have some teams from the Lewis and Clark League representing us well at the state level, and just want to congratulate them and their programs. Sandy Lou at Catlin has had a team win a state title and has two teams in the championship. In soccer, and there couldn't be a better athletic director in the state as far as doing things the right way and stuff. Very well deserved. So congratulations to those schools. With that said, we are transitioning into the winter sports season here at Warrenton. Unfortunately, all of our sports seasons have wrapped up, and we're moving into the winter season. As Sean mentioned in that intro, we have basketball both on the boys and girls side, wrestling both actually on the boys and girls side this year for the first time, as well as a swimming co-op with Seaside, where we have a couple students who travel to Seaside and participate with their swimming program. So we have a full agenda coming up for the winter season. Obviously, always a very exciting season for me. As Sean mentioned, I am the head coach of the girls team. Do have a couple of my players in the booth today, Krista Morrill and Claire Bussert. Some kids who are returning varsity basketball players who we'll be able to talk with a little bit about the season today. But before that, with the winter season approaching, we got a new feature on the show. Claire Bussert, how many days till Christmas is it?
46.
Now you know, in case you were wondering. 46 days till Christmas. She's pretty excited. I'm pretty excited.
We have a breaking news story.
46 days till Christmas. We'll be updating you each week so that you know the exact countdown. With that said, our boys basketball program this year is going to be led again by Coach Nate McBride. We're going to spend this first segment talking a little bit about that. Last week we kind of hit on some of the key returners in Christian Holt especially, but also Dalton Knight, Logan Fisher, Raymond Alcanbenez. Some key players there. Tyler Whitaker returning to the program, going to play a big role for them, especially athletically. Nathan Ozaguera is going to do some things. Ryan Fowler, and then some freshmen coming in who I think maybe will find themselves on the varsity team or close to it. But we'll have to see how it plays out when tryouts and the season officially starts on Monday. For those of you that haven't followed Warriors basketball over the past few years, it's been an uphill battle for the boys program. 2 years ago and 3 years ago, really, they struggled to be competitive. I thought last year, while the win total didn't reflect it, they got much more competitive in the second half of the year, especially if you look at like the De La Salle result at home, where they played a team that was in the state title to a 2 or 3 point game at halftime. The big challenge, I think, for Coach McBride this year is going to be able to instill a competitiveness and a toughness into this program that is going to allow them to compete for a full 32 minutes. I thought they showed it in flashes last year, a lot like we did with the girls program. But how do you learn to hold that level of intensity and stay at that level of intensity for 32 minutes and not have the mental lapses that allow teams to go on 10 to 12 to 14-point runs that put you out of games before you can really blink. Offensively, I think they're going to be more dangerous than they've been in years past. Christian Holtz has really developed a kind of all-around game as to where he was mostly just a shooter the last few years. I've been really impressed with his maturation as a basketball player. I think he's going to do some good things. And I think the most exciting thing for me as an AD thinking about this program is that I think at this year we're going to have some real physicality that we haven't had in the past. We're not going to have any height, unfortunately. We don't have any 6'6" kids walking out onto the floor, but we have a couple kids that are extremely athletic, and I think are going to be able to kind of bully and bruise with some teams. And Raymond Alcambenez on the wing with Tyler Whitaker, who's a freak athlete, can really elevate, really moves quick. And then you also have Logan Fisher, who has really, I think, grown into his body this year and is going to be a real bruiser and rebounder for that squad. So if those three with Christian and Dalton and some of these other guys that we've mentioned can kind of develop on the defensive end, I think they're going to be able to shoot themselves and keep themselves in some games in our league. Our league is extremely talented every year. De La Salle graduated 3 extremely good players. One of them, I think, actually walked on at the U of O and made their practice squad. So some really talented players are leaving our league, but those teams always reload. And I think it's going to be a real challenge for Coach McBride this year to hopefully take a jump from that bottom of our league right there in the middle. And if you get yourself into the middle of the league, you can put yourselves in the district playoffs and have a real chance at a win or two run, which if you've ever watched March Madness isn't that outrageous, to put yourself in the state playoffs. So that's kind of where we're at with boys basketball. Fortunately, next Monday, practices do start for the winter season. I'll be able to have a lot better gauge of where those kids are at and what's going on with that program next week. Thanks for joining us this week on the Warrior Word. We'll be back in the next segment to preview some wrestling and some girls basketball.
This is the Warrior Word, brought to you by Warrenton Kia, and also thanks to these supporting sponsors, South Jetty Dining Room and Bar in Hammond, and Seaside Factory Outlets. We'll take this break and come back and talk more Warriors winter sports on 106.3 The Beach. And welcome back to the Warrior Word on 106.3 The Beach. Talking to Robert Hopeful, the Warrenton High School Athletic Director, on all things Warrior sports, moving now into the winter season. The Warrior Word is brought to you each week by Warrenton Kia. And the Warrenton Kia Holidays on Us sales event is happening right now. No payments for 5 months and 0% financing for up to 66 months. Head down to Warrenton Kia and have a little extra spending money this holiday season. 5 months, no payments. Warrenton Kia. Restrictions apply, and see dealer for details. So we're talking to Robert Hopeful here on the Warrior Word about the winter sports season. They've got basketball coming up here. Also, there's going to be wrestling and the swimming team. And I think you were just saying here before the break that practices start here pretty soon.
Yeah, practices start on Monday, so we'll be kicking off all 3 of those seasons Monday. Right after school. So, if you're a parent of a kid, make sure your kid has their paperwork in, make sure they have everything they need to do to play, their physicals, all that fun stuff that you don't like to talk about, but always seem to come up right at the start of the season. With that said, we do have wrestling starting Monday as well. We have some returning wrestlers, as well as our entire coaching staff coming back. Coach Corey Conant, who's a teacher at our grade school, a really good teacher, a really good guy, took over the program last year in his first year and was able to have a state champion, as well as some other kids, I think, really overachieve, and were at least compared to what people expected. And he's somebody who I think really does things the right way and really takes a lot of pride in his program. I know he's really excited about year 2 and kind of the first year as a head coach is so overwhelming in the sense there's so many things you have to do that you don't realize that are part of your job. And this year I think he can focus a little bit more on the coaching, and he's going to do a heck of a job for us. He also has his assistant coach, Coach Trent Klebe, coming back, who does a really good job. He's at our high school. He has a good relationship with the kids. He's done a really nice job building the numbers of our program, which I think is the most exciting part of our wrestling program this year, is that we have more kids out than ever before. And on top of that, we have a girls wrestling program for the first time ever, which for a program that's never existed, it looks like we're going to have almost 10 girls wrestling in the program, which is insane, considering we had 0 last year. And right off the bat, that puts us in a situation we're going to have one of the biggest girls wrestling programs at our level in the state. We might have as many girls wrestlers this year as we had boys wrestlers last year, which is so cool. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. On the boys' side of things, we do have some returners coming back. It is a pretty young team. All 4 of our people who placed at districts and made state last year were seniors, so they're all going to be very much missed. But it just means that there's some opportunities for some younger guys to step up into some leadership roles. Giovanni Martinez is going to have a bigger role in the wrestling team this year and really grow on some of the success that he had as a freshman. Brian Shepard, going to be a senior, coming back for some injuries he suffered in football. Hopefully he's going to be able to step up and have a good year. Caden Hans, another guy who's been working really hard that I expect to have a better year. Bo Reynolds has really worked hard up there in the weight room. I've been very, very impressed with what I've seen. I think he's going to be able to have a good season for our wrestling program. And as you run down the list, it's just a group of kids that have worked really hard. Not a lot of kids that I think have wrestled since childhood, like maybe a Colton Walker last year who ended up being a state champion. We don't have a lot of kids who have that kind of background in wrestling and that pedigree right now, but we have a ton of kids that love the sport, that are willing to run through a wall for the coaching staff, who have a great relationship with that coaching staff. And because of that, I think the room for growth with this team is just so immense. And I'm just very excited to see, and compare where this group starts, next Monday and where they end the season in February, because I think Coach Conan and Coach Clevey are going to have some incredible gains with this group. On the girls' side of things, we do have some pretty good athletes from some other sports who have decided to wrestle this year. Asia Lambert, who's a volleyball player for us, was an honorable mention all-league volleyball player for us, is going to wrestle. Mason Fritz, who's actually been a state qualifier in track, is going to go out for the girls wrestling team, and then a bunch of other girls who are freshmen or sophomores that are really looking to find kind of their niche in Warrenton High School athletics. That I'm really excited to see how that's going to grow and develop and change over the next 3 or 4 months. And I'm curious to see how many kids that clicks for, and if we can maybe have a state qualifier or two from that girls group, which would be really, really cool. For those of you unfamiliar with how Oregon wrestling works with the girls and boys side of things, there is a girls division by itself now at the state tournament. This is something that's been growing over the last 4 or 5 years. They have their own districts, and for the most part, they're going to wrestle against other girls. There are some tournaments where they wrestle with the boys, and those tournaments are ran in the same way that a normal tournament would be run. It's just based on numbers of participation. Obviously, if your team's the only team with girls wrestlers at that tournament, it's tough to have a girls bracket. But it's a growing sport. It's something that we're excited to be partaking in and participating in. I love giving opportunities to young women to find their niche in high school athletics, and anytime we can add a new sport for them, it's really, really exciting. Also want to give a shout out to Mallory Redding, who is going to be our girls wrestling coach this year as part of the program. I think she's going to do a really, really good job. She has a great relationship with the rest of the coaching staff, and I think is going to have a lot of fun with it as she learns kind of the ins and outs of being a coach. With that said, we're going to come back for one final segment of the Warrior Word, talking girls hoops, and also previewing very quickly our swimming participants at Seaside High School.
The Warrior Word is brought to you by Warrenton Kia each week, and these supporting sponsors, South Jetty Dining Room and Bar in Hammond, and Seaside Factory Outlets. We'll take one more time out and then come back and talk some more Warriors basketball here on 106.3 The Beach. And welcome back to the Warrior Word on 106.3 The Beach, brought to you each week by Warrenton Kia. Talking to Robert Hopeful, the Warrenton High School Athletic Director, on all things winter sports now. They got basketball coming up and also wrestling for both boys and girls, and the swimming season. And apparently they're going to be starting practices here soon, so I got to imagine that we're not too far away from games either.
Yeah, our first games for hoops is December 2nd at home versus Waldport. That following Saturday, the girls program travels to my alma mater, Junction City, and the boys team has another home game with Owaco. So it's coming up real quick. On a personal note, obviously, I'm pretty excited for December 3rd to head back home and play at Junction. I've never been a visitor there. I've coached there. I've played there numerous sports, coached multiple sports. Grew up going to sports there, but always as a Junction City fan. So it's going to be fun being on the other side of things in the opposite locker room, getting to coach against some people that were coaches of mine and people I grew up having as teachers. So that's going to be a cool experience for me. But obviously the season's not about me; it's about the girls, and I'm really excited about the girls that we have this year. We have so much talent coming back, such good young women as far as just who they are, and I'm just thrilled to start the journey of basketball season with them. It's always a long season. It goes through all the holidays. It's a grind at times, but we're gonna have a lot of fun with it. Before we get into talking with Krista Morrill and Claire Buster a little bit of hoops, just want to preview the swimming season. Our one returning swimmer is Luke Lillenwall. He's been a state participant in swimming for Seaside for the last few years. Should have a fantastic season this year. I'm going to try to get him on the show in the next couple weeks to kind of talk about what his experience has been like. But we also have had some kids sign up who are interested yesterday. I don't know which one of those kids will actually end up doing swimming. They were gauging interest, and as I get that exact roster on Monday, we'll talk more about those swimmers. With that said, we do have Krista and Claire in the booth today. Krista, this is your senior season of basketball, coming into your fourth year really being a part of the program. Third year may be having a pretty significant role in the varsity team. What's some personal goals you have going into the season as a player?
Really this year I just want to leave it all on the court. There's not much else that you can do senior season, and I just want to have fun this year. I don't want there to be drama or anything to have to deal with, and just want it to make it a good last year. So.
Absolutely, the no drama thing, I can get behind that idea. One of the fun parts about coaching girls is sometimes you have to deal with that drama. But I think we have a special group this year that I think that's not going to be the kind of issues that we've had maybe in the past. Especially with leaders like Krista, and Landry and Ellie and Katie, our seniors. I think that'll be a non-issue this year. Same question to you, Claire. Obviously, last year you were kind of thrown into the starting point guard role about 10 games into the season, and never gave it up from there. And I think really grew in the second half of the season as a point guard. What are some personal goals you have this year? Coming back for your second year as a varsity basketball player.
I just really want to improve all throughout the season and just have fun and just enjoy the time I have left with the seniors and just play to win.
Absolutely. I think that's got to be our mindset. The tough thing about our league is, unlike a lot of we talked about in football, it's huge in basketball. There's 9 teams, so our league play actually starts on the 12th or 13th of December, when most leagues are not starting league till the middle of January. Which doesn't give us kind of that ramp-up time. It does allow you to kind of figure out before Christmas break, when you kind of have that lull and some extra practice time to know what you need to work on. But it does create some challenges. So we really got to hit the ground running next week and figure out what we can and can't do, and to really try to hone some of those weaknesses as a squad. Kind of a follow-up question is, we talked a little bit about the personal side of things. What is a team goal you have this year, Krista, outside of the drama stuff? Maybe in the wins and losses, or from a competitive standpoint. What do you want to see from the team this year?
I really just want to see us all work as hard as possible all the time. And also, I've been a part of the program long enough to see us not do well for a long time, and it'd be really nice to get on top of our wins and actually be able to place in our league. Just see the growth that we've had over the last few years.
Yeah, it would be really, really nice to see the kind of the fruits of our labor. This group, whether it be in the summer, whether it be at the end of last year, has just grown tremendously as basketball players. I've been watching the open gyms. Obviously, I can't coach at all until Monday, but watching them, the basketball IQ has grown so much. The ability to play with each other has grown so much. The offensive ability, the defensive ability, stuff that they wouldn't even have thought of doing, 2 years ago, I think comes pretty natural at this point. So, obviously, as you improve, so does the rest of the league, and our league is very, very tough. But I do think a realistic expectation and a goal is for us to win a lot more games this year, and to be competitive in our very tough league. And where those pegs fall, who knows? But I think that's what's got to be the aim of every season for every team. I mean, if you're not aiming at a league championship, you're looking at it wrong. Sometimes that's more achievable than other years, but that's always got to be the dream. And obviously, I think that's our dream as well. Claire, last question for you today. You talked a little bit about your last season with some of these seniors. This is we've had kind of a core group over the last, I guess, year of about 8 or 9 kids. Kind of talk about what you think where our strengths are going to be as a team this year on the offensive and defensive side of things.
I definitely think that, we have some aggressive people, but we're not a very physical team, and so I think we'll need to really play to our strengths and know that we're not going to be able to beat that many people up, and just figure out what we're good at and do it.
What do you think? I mean, I agree. We struggle a little bit with the physicality stuff, and that's well said. But we do defend really well. I think last year that was kind of our calling card. We were able to stay in some games with some teams, even though maybe we were shooting not so well, and because of our effort on the defensive end. And I think that's something that's going to continue with the defensive intensity. And I think one thing that we've really improved on is our offensive play, especially shooting the three. Over the offseason, we have a couple kids that have really developed the range and the touch, but we also have some other kids that have really learned how to find them and get them shots and run the pick and roll. Something we've really worked on hard is the pick and roll game, and whether it's Claire or Tyla or Landry, we have a lot of kids that can be pretty effective with the ball in that, and we have some people that can roll pretty well out of that. So it should be a fun season for us. Who knows how it actually plays out? Hopefully we show some improvement from last year, and I don't know how that correlates to the wins or losses, but I definitely think we're better this year than we were last year, considering we have everybody back, and it should be a fun season for our hoops girls this year. With that said, we'll be back next week talking the start of the winter season. When we record next Wednesday, we'll have kicked off. Thanks for joining us on the Warrior Word.
That will do it for the Warrior Word this week, brought to you by Warrenton Kia and these supporting sponsors, South Jetty Dining Room and Bar in Hammond and Seaside Factory Outlet. And this show is also now available on our YouTube podcast archive. You'll find it at Ohana Media Group Coaches Shows on YouTube. Please like and subscribe. For Robert Hopeful, I'm Sean O'Connor saying you stay classy, Warrenton, and we'll meet you back here next Wednesday on the Warrior Word on 106.3 The Beach.
This has been the Warrior Word, the first and last word on Warrenton High School athletics. Brought to you by Warrenton Kia. Tune in Wednesdays at 6 p.m. for the Warrior Word, heard exclusively on 106.3 The Beach.